Welcome to our YouTube channel. I'm Milind Wakankar. Today I'm going to discuss the problems based on GST for 10th standard ICSE. If you are new to our channel, please subscribe to our channel and don't forget to turn on the notification bell so that you won't miss any one of our further videos. Let's get started. So today we are going to discuss the problems from GST, and now I'm going to discuss the problems based on only the transaction that takes place within one state. I'm not going to discuss the other questions because as on today what we know is you will get the questions only based on the transaction within the state. Okay? If after few days the council declares that the questions based on two different states transaction will also be there, I will prepare another video for the same. Okay, let's get started. Now we must know what are the rules whenever we calculate the GST when the transaction takes place within the state. What do you mean by within the state? If the transaction is taking place say from Mumbai to Pune, Mumbai comes in Maharashtra state, Pune also comes in Maharashtra state. So I will consider this transaction that is taking place from Mumbai to Pune as the transaction that is taking place within the state, that is intra-state. So what are the rules? The rule says if the transaction takes place in the same state as I discussed just now, अगर कोई भी transaction महाराष्ट्र में हो रहा है, that is intrastate, then the rule says that total GST will be divided into two parts. Of course, both the parts will be exactly half of the total GST. First part and the second part will be half of the GST. Again, I am repeating the same thing. One of them is called as CGST, that is the tax to be given to the central government. So it will be considered as CGST, that is Central Goods and Services Tax. And obviously the other will be SGST, that is given to the state government. So it is called as the State Goods and Services Tax. Just now I said both these taxes will be half of the total GST. So CGST will be equal to SGST, will be half of the total GST. If I just want to find out what will be the formula, if I want to find out GST when CGST or SGST is given, exactly opposite. So GST will be 2 times of CGST or SGST. I hope you have understood this. Why this is important? Because in some of the problems they may ask you to find out separate CGST and SGST. Let's get started with the problems. So here is the first question. Find the amount of bill for the following intrastate. What is intrastate? Within the same state. Transaction of goods and services. So I have been given one table. Look at the table properly. The market retail price in price is given for 4 different items. Discount for each of them is also given and the discounts are different. Rate of CGST is given. Now how to get the rate of GST, that also we'll discuss. Let's begin with the first one. Now if I want to find out the amount of bill for this item, I will require two values. First the selling price and the second one is GST. How will I get selling price? It will be MRP minus discount. अगर वहाँ पे डिस्काउंट नहीं होता तो सेलिंग प्राइस विल बी कंसीडर्ड इक्वल टू द मार्क प्राइस. ओके, सो लेट अस बिगिन विद दिस. MRP is 12,000. Discount is at the rate of 30%. Who's 30%? MRP is 30%. And rate of CGST is 6%. Let's first find out the discount. That will be 30% of 12,000. If I subtract it from MRP, I will get the selling price. So here is the selling price is MRP minus discount. Discount is 30% of MRP, that is 12,000. So if I simplify it, I get it as 3,600 If I subtract it from MRP, I get SP as 8,400. Hopefully you have understood the calculations. Now, you have been given the rate of CGST. Just now we have discussed that the rate of GST will be double the rate of CGST or SGST. Since here the rate of CGST is given, which is 6, to get the value of rate of GST, I will find out the answer by multiplying the number by 2. So rate of GST will be 2 into 6, that is 12%. Whose 12%? It will be obviously that of the selling price. So let us calculate 12% of the selling price, that is 8,400. So if I simplify, I get the answer as 1008. So this 1008, that is GST, if I add to the selling price, which is 8,400, I will get the amount of bill for this particular item. So here is the calculation. So my answer for the first item is the amount of bill is 9,408 rupees. Whatever calculations we have done, all these we will continue doing for all the remaining 3 items. So let us do it. Once again, I have written the data for the second item. Whatever we did in the previous case, same thing we will have to do. So first of all, find out the SP. How do you get it? MRP minus discount. Discount will be 20% of MRP. In this case, it is 15,000. So substitute, simplify, you get SP as 15,000 minus the discount, which is 3,000, equal to 12,000. Once again, I need the rate of GST. I have been given the rate of CGST. Rate of GST will be double the rate of CGST. So it is 2 into 9, 18%. GST is rate of GST into selling price, which is 12,000. Rate of GST is 18%. So 18% of 12,000 I'll calculate. So that will be 2160. If I add GST to the selling price, I'll get the amount of bill. In this case, it is equal to rupees 14,160 rupees. Correct? Let's do the same thing for the next one. Once again, selling price is MRP minus discount. 30% of MRP, that is 9,500. If I simplify it, I get the answer for SP as 6,650 rupees. Now the rate of CGST is known to us as 14. Double it to get the rate of GST, which will be 28%. And now GST will be 28% of the selling price, which is 6,650 rupees. So if I simplify this, I get the answer as rupees 1862. Add this to the SP, I get the answer as rupees 8,512 rupees. Do it for the last time for the last item. Discount is 40% of the MRP. So if I subtract it from MRP, I'll get the selling price. Simplify this, it will be 7,200 as the discount. Subtract it from MRP, I get SP, that is selling price, as 10,800. Rate of CGST is 2.5%. Double it to get the rate of GST, which will be 5%. And now 5% of this SP gives me the value for GST, which will be equal to, in this case, after simplification, is 540. If I add it to this value, that is SP, I get the amount of bill. So it is equal to this much. And now the question is total amount for the bill. It will be whatever is the bill for this item, this one, and the last one I will add, which will give me the total bill for these all 4 items. So if I add it, I get the total bill as 43,420 rupees. So I hope you have understood. Whenever any question comes where the transaction is intrastate and some table is given, how to find out the amount of the bill. Okay. Let's see this question. but this is not same as your previous. Okay, this is a bit different question. Shopkeeper buys a Braille typewriter for rupees 40,000 and sells it to the consumer for rupees 45,000. If the rate of GST is 5%, find the GST paid by the shopkeeper to the government. Now always remember that whenever the wording is GST paid by somebody, it can be shopkeeper, it can be retailer, it can be anybody, okay, to the government, the indirect question is what is the net GST paid by the person, in this case shopkeeper. So actually we want to find out net GST. And what is the formula for net GST? If you have gone through my first video, I have given you the formula. Net GST is always nothing but the output tax, in this case for shopkeeper, because he has to pay the GST to the government. So it will be output tax for the shopkeeper minus ITC for the shopkeeper. So in this particular problem, I have to find out two values: output tax for the shopkeeper and ITC, that is input tax credit, ITC, input tax credit for the shopkeeper. Why for the shopkeeper? Because the question is related to what is the GST paid by the shopkeeper to the government. So in this particular question, as the question is related to the shopkeeper, I must find out, I'm again repeating this, the output tax for the shopkeeper as well as the ITC, input tax credit for the shopkeeper. And for the same, I must know the selling price for the shopkeeper as well as the cost price for the shopkeeper, because your output tax will be calculated by considering the selling price, or it will be calculated on the selling price, and ITC will be calculated on the cost price, of course both for the shopkeeper. I hope you have gone through whatever I have said right now thoroughly and understood it. If not, you can just go through this video once again. So again I am repeating for the last time, as I want to find out the net GST paid by the shopkeeper, there are two things that you have to calculate. One, output tax for the shopkeeper, and input tax credit, your short form is ITC, for the shopkeeper. And for the same, I must know the selling price as well as the cost price of the item given in the question, that is in this case this Braille typewriter. So let's begin with the answer. Cost price for the shopkeeper, because he buys it at 40,000. As I said, I must know two values: the cost price of the item, in this case Braille typewriter for the shopkeeper, as well as its selling price. Now what is the selling price? It is given specifically as 45,000. So SP for the shopkeeper is 45,000. Why do I require these two values? Because your output tax will be calculated on SP and ITC will be calculated on CP. So let's begin with that. Output tax for the shopkeeper is rate of GST multiplied by SP, selling price for the shopkeeper. So rate of GST is given to me as 5%. So 5% of 45,000, that turns out to be equal to rupees 2,250. Once I got this OT, output tax, now find out the ITC. ITC will be nothing but rate of GST, but now in this case it should be multiplied by the cost price and not the selling price. What is the cost price? 40,000. So calculate that. So it will be 5% of 40,000, which will come as equal to rupees 2,000. Why did we get these two values? Because if I want to find out the GST paid by the shopkeeper to the government, the meaning is I need the net GST, and net GST, the formula says it is equal to output tax minus ITC. So last part, net GST payable by shopkeeper is output tax of the shopkeeper minus his input tax. So it will be 2250 minus 2000, that is equal to rupees 250. So rupees 250 will be paid by the shopkeeper to the government. I hope you have understood the entire problem. Let's see this question. Dhani Prasad buys almond for rupees 700 and sells it for 900. If the rate of GST is 12%, find CGST and SGST paid by him to the government. Just now we have seen whenever the question is such that you have to find out the GST paid to the government, the actual value that we have to find out is that of the net GST. What is net GST? Output tax minus the ITC, that is input tax credit. To find out these values, I must know the cost price and the selling price for the person who is supposed to pay the tax. So let us find out these values. Cost price for Dhani Prasad is 700, selling price is rupees 900. To find out now first the output tax, what is the formula? Rate of GST into selling price. Rate of GST is 12%. So 12% of 900, if you simplify, you get it as equal to rupees 108. ITC, the formula is rate of GST multiplied by CP, which is 700. So if I substitute and simplify, I get the value for ITC as rupees 84. The subtraction of this value, that is ITC, from this value, that is OT, output tax, gives me the net GST. And now the question is not just GST, it is about CGST and SGST. If you recollect the initial part, you realize that it is going to be half of this total. So CGST will be equal to SGST, which will be equal to half of the GST, that is half of 24. So that will be equal to rupees 12. So CGST and SGST, both the values are equal to 12, that will be paid by the person, that is Dhani Prasad, to the government. Hopefully you have understood this problem. So additional part was to find out CGST and SGST. Let's say this question is a bit different. 1 kilogram of butter costs rupees 476, which includes 12% GST. Find the amount of GST paid. Now, in the first question that we have gone through, we have calculated the amount of bill as selling price plus GST. Here, this 476 includes GST. That means this 476 is the combination of selling price and GST. What is the question? We have to find out what is the GST. So let us begin with the answer. So this 476 will be nothing but selling price plus GST. How do you calculate GST? It will be rate of GST multiplied by selling price. What is the rate of GST given in the question? It is 12%. Whose 12%? That of the selling price. Do we know selling price? No. So let us write down the equation. Total cost price is SP plus GST, which is obtained by the formula rate of GST multiplied by selling price. Now let us write down all the values that are known to us and unknown will be kept as it is. So we know cost price as total equal to nothing but 476. This is unknown, this is known, this is unknown. So let us write down that 476 equal to SP plus 12% of SP. I hope you have understood this part, right? Let's simplify it. So multiplying each term by 100 so that we will be getting rid of this denominator. So I'm multiplying this by 100, this by 100, and now this by 100. I hope you have understood the step. So if I multiply this by 100, it will be 4760. I'm simplifying this part first. So this is the equation. I hope you can solve this. 112 SP is 47600. So SP will be this divided by 112. So on simplification, I get selling price as 425. What is the total value? It is 476, which includes the two values, SP and GST. So GST is 12% of your SP. So if I calculate, I get the answer as 51. You could have obtained it by considering this equation also. So there are two ways. either substitute this value 476 equal to 425 plus GST, you'll get the same value, or by your normal procedure of finding the GST ka formula. Hopefully you have understood this entire problem. That's all for this video. I hope you have understood the entire video, all the problems. You must have understood the GST calculations neatly, right? Do like this video. If you have got some questions or comments, please write them below. Thanks for watching the video. See you in the next video.